really want to change that. So I got that. I got that. Okay. Welcome, welcome. Kim, lawful, greetings. Go on. Hope everybody is well. We're about to get started shortly. Taking care of a few loose ends. You know what I say? From the other day, I noticed that even more hackers have been taking an interest in the Voice of Jamaica website. Crafty as they are misguided. So let's test this out and see what we got. Good. So I use that one. Alright, so let's try this from the outside. Aha! Here we go. Okay. Let's see what that does. Very nice. Very nice. Booyah! That's what I'm talking about. So now, just need to make sure so we record this. Yeah. Now we're cooking with gas. Now we are cooking with gas. You know, experience is always good. Eagle King, lawful, greetings. So, I'm testing out a new feature for VOJ, and the website should be quite a bit faster going forward. But we shall see, right? We shall see. All right, so I see today we're going to shift gears. We are going to get back into some lawful discussion. We're going to give constitutional drafting a break for today, because what we have left is refinements, and the refinements are going to be even more mentally exhausting on my side. So, you know, those of you who have been coming to class on TikTok, the basic class, right? For some of you who have already seen the progress we've gone through thus far, and for those of you who don't know, you can go on voiceofjamaica.com, or you can go on YouTube and search Jamaicans Assemble, and you'll be able to see the previous drafting sessions that we've had. Right? So today we're gonna have some discussions about the law. We're gonna also have some discussions about some of the crafty things that have happened over the years that people have not been aware of. And it is sad. It is sad because the law is what is used to get past the defenses of the regular man and woman. The law is the ultimate sword, and the law is the ultimate shield. Let me say that again. The law is the ultimate sword of society, because everyone is expected to respect the law. The law is also the ultimate shield, because if you know the law, you can properly defend yourself lawfully. Right? But what happened over time is we were hijacked. We were hijacked. And for those of you who don't know, lawful, greetings, welcome. For those of you who don't know, or you've never been to class, the easiest way to hijack a country's legal system is with wars. War is the easiest thing to use to institute new laws that would otherwise be impossible to implement. Okay? And Jamaica is no different. Jamaica is not an exception. Jamaica is not a place where we have the adherence of law by every single individual or state agent. So, what I'm going to show you today is an example of not only Jamaica, but I'm going to show you again what happened in the United States so that you have a better idea of how we got hijacked. Because you see, unlike Jamaica, the United States became the new world. And what does that mean? What does it mean to be the new world? Because this happens from time to time, you know. Every few hundred years, them said, oh, well, this is going to be the new world. And what they do, or the powers that be, they use wars to destroy several countries. And then they build new structures, different structures, looking different. And they say, yes, this is the new economy, the new peace, the new world. Right? And then after a few hundred years, they do it again. They destroy things using war. Destroy places, destroy people. And destroy knowledge. So when they do this, now you can leave some countries behind. And you can experiment and bring a new country into existence. And the new country, of course, is going to have all the advantages. So, when the new world is created, as they call it, I can't really tell you why it is really called the new world just yet. But we're going to talk about what happens after war and how we find ourselves in peculiar situations. When a new world is built, when a new country is built, when a country is rebuilt into something new, what happens is all of the jobs and the opportunities are in the new world. So the people in the old world, they are now hurrying up and rushing to go into the new world, because that is where the opportunities are. That is where much of the money is. That is where much of the new items are. Much like how people in Jamaica want to run go foreign, go make some money. Some of them want to live there because, you know, you don't have any morals, you don't have any values, you don't have anything. And then when some of them reach, then get caught up in the convenience of everything right at your fingertips. And then nobody want to go back home. Many people don't realize what is happening until it's too late. When time you figure it out, you are either sick, you lost everything, unfortunate circumstances require that you return home, and some people never leave. When they didn't realize that the reason it is called a melting pot is because your dignity is melted away, your goals are melted away, your dreams become new dreams, your aspirations, your value system is gone, everybody mind them business, so therefore you feel like, say, well, if nobody now watch me, then why am I going to continue the same tradition? And that is how they take away culture, they take away pride, they take away a lot of things by mixing and melting everybody in this big bucket of no morality, no accountability, except the law. The law alone. That is all you have to adhere to. Whereas if you are in your own country, right? When you are in a country that has, for example, a specific value system of things that even though the law says one thing, you have the morality of society, right? And there are certain things you can't do. There are certain things that are not going to be tolerated, right? And certain things the law does not mingle with. But in America, there is no such thing. Damien, lawful greetings, evening. Empress, lawful evening. So, when you lose your morality to go out there and go get vanity, because again, I am not saying that people should not go and look for opportunities. Empress said the portal is now open, only the spiritually awoke will make it. Well, I don't really think so. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. There will be a time when I can explain more, but don't worry yourself. We still have some time. We still have a little bit of time. Now, when we have our own people that they see opportunities outside, our people see opportunities outside of Jamaica, so that is why they aspire to leave. That is one of the only reasons why our people leave. Alison, lawful, greetings, welcome. If we had the opportunities in Jamaica, people would not leave so readily. If we had the freedom in Jamaica, people would not leave so readily. When I say leave, don't get me wrong. Leave meaning leaving almost permanently or semi-permanently, in order to get resources to come back and build or come back and enjoy life. Sabek, lawful, greetings. Yes, there are a lot of things that happen where our fears, our negative emotions, our frustration feeds others, right? There are a lot of things going on that we can't see. But the point of this is, if our natives had the opportunity to grow and build and work and be comfortable in their own land, they would not aspire to go to any other country, not America, not Asia, not Europe, maybe Africa, right? We'll go amongst our own people. But to go to some of these places, people are literally forced. If they want a better life, if they want to be able to survive comfortably, they are literally forced to go to the new world. And that is just a commonplace reality. But is it natural? Obviously not. It is an artificial scarcity created, where the country itself, the government, is monitoring and interfering with finances. It's interfering with the economy. The economy has no natural balance. So the prices are inflated, the currency is inflated, the taxes and the fees are inflated. Almost everything is inflated. And the people themselves have no say in taxation, in public finance, in accounting, or in any laws. People have no say. Not necessarily. The people have no idea how they can become involved in any of this. So, because the general populace don't know, then we all suffer, right? We continue down the path of least resistance. Empress said, when the mind is weak, it is easy to be manipulated. You see, weakness only comes as a result of lack of knowledge. It's not necessarily weak, right? If everybody know the rules of the game, right, it comes down to skill. That is why the law keeps changing. Because if the law keeps changing, there is nobody that's going to be able to keep up. Remember, those that are in parliament, they don't really play the game. They are just the administrators. So at the end of the day, It is not equality for all. It is simply who knows and who doesn't. And even for those who know, you only most likely know a small segment of the big picture. So you're sticking a little corner with what you know and you just run with it. Right? So this is why they have the new world. This is why we have wars. This is why we have economic collapses. This is why we have manipulation of interest rates. This is why we have programs that don't benefit us necessarily, but it is in place to stabilize our ceiling. If we can't rise above a certain level, then that creates a ceiling. If we can't earn above a certain level, it creates a ceiling. If we can't do anything when we are affected, that is a certain ceiling. So until someone come with one hammer and crack that ceiling, it is going to stay there because those who created the ceiling is comfortable. There are those who not only lack knowledge, they actively reject it. That's true. That's true. When one dumb down their self to please others, it becomes a weak mind. Not necessarily, you know. So, all right, let's use my example. People would say I'm somewhat smart, right? And I choose to enlighten those that may not know. It's people who may not have the means nor the ideas to go out there and look for certain things, but I bring it to the reality. I bring it to the forefront and say, look, this is out here in the public. You can use this to your advantage. You can learn this. You can do this and that. Would you say that I am a fool to be doing that? To be teaching people that they should know better, they should do better, and these are options available to you? It's not I don't consider it to be a weak mind, because the more people we elevate and bring up to speed, the better of a chance we have at changing society. If we are having problems in society and nobody knows how to do anything, and then someone comes along and they start showing and teaching and putting things in place so that all of us can benefit, I don't see that as being a weak mind. Because I already know this. I already know all of this stuff that I'm teaching. So I have to lower my vibration and come down to a level where everybody is at. Teach everybody little by little. And then everybody vibration increase. Everybody vibration bring up. King, knowledge is power. And ones don't want it. What mind is that? Listen, you're coming from a negative perspective. I am not here to teach everybody. Whosoever find it useful, right, then they will ingest the information and they will be appreciative. They will show gratitude, right? I am not here to force nothing down anybody's throat. So it is for those who find it interesting, those who find it useful. It's just like a church. Exactly. Every day is a school day. Not everybody wants change. You've been teaching how much are online trying to gain knowledge. Right. Exactly. And everybody is at a different level. So, yes, there are people out there who are ignorant. There are people out there who don't want others to learn. There are people out there who want to learn. That is not my concern. My concern is just who gravitate to the information and find it useful. Right? I am not here to convince anyone. If someone come on the live and they stop and see exactly what exactly I'm talking about and they find it intriguing, they will stay and listen. Some people might say, hold on, man. Let me go up on VOJ and see what I go on. And what you say, new constitution? Yeah, man, we need changes. Some people might say, yo, what foolishness that. Me not listen to that. That is not my concern. Right? We have to leave people with their free will. You can read the comments better. Yeah, I don't expect anyone to reciprocate, right? I am not looking to gain from teaching. I am doing this freely of my own free will. People choose what they want, exactly. Yeah, convince Parliament though. Them a listen, you and I implement. So I see some people, some officials who have come into the limelight and actually doing some of the things that I've been suggesting. And some of the things that we have been crafting in the constitutional draft. So it would appear that those who are in positions of power are actually paying attention. And, you know, like I said before, I am not here to covet any knowledge. I am not here to reveal nobody big secret. None of that. All I am teaching is what is already in the public. Right? And for those who find it effective, after you have actually learned, you've actually tested it, you've actually seen what I have been talking about, you know, from day one, what do I start with? Do not argue with the police. Don't argue with customs. Don't argue with any law enforcement. Don't even argue with the judge. Learn how to speak. Learn how to hold your composure. And learn how you can effectively take action. That's it. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be boisterous. You don't need to threaten. You don't need none of that. Your actions in paperwork and processes is more effective than shouting and telling people off. It not gonna bring you away. So them can't think for themselves to implement anything new. That is a question for them. Right? So, the reason why the New World exists, let me close up this start. The New World exists simply to keep others at a lower level. To make it appear, for example, them say Jamaica is a third world country, right? Excuse me. Them say Jamaica is a third world country. Think about it. There are two problems here. Number one, where do we start from with our number system? We start from either 0 or we start from 1. And what do? We count upwards. Right? Have we ever heard the term second world? We always hear first world and we hear third world. Why we not hear second world? What am I to run from number 2? Anyways, them say them say Jamaica is third world. So speaking from a logical standpoint, if you are counting, you count from 1 to 2 to 3. So Jamaica is a third world country. No wonder it's so expensive. Secondly, if Jamaica is a third world country, right? Why would almost 4 billion people per year visit Jamaica, a third world country? Why? A third world country is supposed to be so backwards. It's supposed to be so primitive. According to their own verbiage and definition, Jamaica is not supposed to be anything. Jamaica is supposed to be, you know, such a country you don't even think about. But yet still, we are literally on the top of, you name it. anything we compete into, what do? We dominate. We not take talk. We not stop at obstacles. We not business who want cuss and go on. Right? We just make sure we focus and we just keep moving forward. So, if we are third world, why is it that people continually keep coming to Jamaica? Look how many times they say Jamaica is dangerous, Jamaica is high alert, Jamaica is at this threat level. How much in people getting unalive and whatever. Guess what? All when time hurricane a go on, people still tell the plane say go on to Jamaica. You know why you never see the consolidated fund? Hey, I tell you now. You see, let us proceed. We're not going to really get stuck on this because we can talk about Jamaica all day. The amount of influence that we have, you can't call Jamaica a third world country. You can't call Jamaica a third world country. But today, what we're going to talk about is a couple of things. We're going to talk about economic hijacking. We're going to talk about legal hijacking. And we're going to talk about constitutional hijacking. And we're going to start with America. Alright? We talked about this in a previous slide, but we're going to go a little bit deeper and talk about some interesting things with Georgia's first constitution, right? So in case many of you don't know, yes, I'm going to get on a pen and a paper. I'm not supposed to know this by now, you know. Get on a pen and a paper. We're going to start with this one. The Georgia Constitution was enacted the same time the United States Constitution was crafted. Alright? In 1777 or 1776, you had the US Constitution, and Georgia first constitution was in 1777. Before this, them just had representative government from England. Alright? So this is them first constitution. That is what it looks like. Right? Now, interestingly, when we look at the Jamaica Constitution, we're going, the original one them, we're going to see the writing is very similar. Let me see if I can zoom it in a little bit. See? You're going to see a lot of similarities in how they write. So anyways, if we go down to the very last page of this document, right? It have one section in here, the last section, where it says the Constitution, how altered, meaning how do you change the Constitution? That is the very last thing them put here, so, right? And as you can see, the Constitution only had 11 pages. 11 pages. The very first Constitution. Right? So here what LXIII says. No alteration. Now, let me zoom in this so you can see this. You see it look like F? This is a S. This is supposed to be an S. So, and I'm going to share these links as well on VOJ, voiceofjamaica.com. But anyways, so when you read it, you basically have to change your mind to realize that these are S. It is not F. So, it says, No alteration shall be made in this constitution without petitions from a majority of the counties, and the petitions from each county to be signed by a majority of voters in each county within this state. At which time the assembly shall order a convention to be called for that purpose, specifying the alteration to be made according to the petitions preferred to the assembly by the majority of the counties as aforesaid. So you see the exact thing we are now doing when we're crafting our constitution, where any alterations to be made has to be made coming from the people by vote. That is exactly what they did in 1777. People, want to realize how significant this is? The founding people, the people who first draft, because these are, remember you know, in America, them basically run away from Europe and end up in America. Some of them get promise, right? So they might get land and they might go get opportunities, and there is so much them can do when they reach here. When they reach here, they don't have nothing. They have to start from scratch. So imagine you start from scratch and you build up your thing. You have your farm, you have your little store, you know, you have your little thing go on. And then here comes the bankers, and they must say, hey, everybody needs to be under one government. You can't have one county or one state over here, so, and somebody else have one state over there, so, and the whole of you do your own thing. No, man, that sounds like tribalism. Everybody needs to be under one big government. That is how the federal government was formed. Because they don't want any government that is not controlled. That is why the Commonwealth was created. You can go and look it up. When I talk from a point of speculation. Okay? So, let us go back to this thing here. Alright? A matter of fact, I went and I looked up the translated text version. So, I'm also going to include this one from the Yale Law School. You know, say Yale is one of them top schools in the US, right? So, they have a translated version where they rewrite it, all of this stuff in English. So if you go down to the very last page, again, we will see the same thing. You see? No alteration shall be made in this constitution without petitions from a majority of the counties and the petitions from each county to be signed by a majority of voters. Right? Now, this in itself was very powerful, right? So if it has say only the people them can sign and vote to make changes to the constitution, how did we end up? A matter of fact, let me see if we can. Which part is? Because Georgia now have about 15 different constitutions, right? Them write and them draft and them this and them that. How did we end up with so much constitution even, a matter of fact, let us look it up. Let me show you something. University of Georgia, right? So now, here we have, look upon changes in a constitution. 1983, let me see if. So these are the different years the constitution was changed. 1777, 1789, 1798, 1861, 1865, 1868, 1877, 1945, 1976, 1983. Let us take a look at the next one. Wanna stay with me now? I promise you, we're gonna get to a point. Right? So we have 1789. Let's look on the next one. Right there. PDF. Alright. I'm going to show you some other things in about. Let us go down to the very last one. Right? Where does it say? How to be altered? Alright. A matter of fact, let us look up this one on Avalon Project. So this is Constitution of 1789, right? Let us look up the one from 1789. Let's go at the top. Let us search. Constitution of Georgia. Revolution and Independence. Constitution of Georgia. 1777. 17. Excuse me. I really want to waste time, you know. Alright. Make we leave that alone. We are going to just go and work with that one here, but we're fine. We're not going to waste time on that. So here where it say again, let me zoom it in a little bit. It say again, Constitution, how to be altered, right? All right. Watch here now. It says, at the general election for members of assembly in the year 1794, the elections in each county shall elect 3 persons to represent them in a convention for the purpose of taking into consideration the alterations necessary to be made in this constitution, who shall meet at such time and place as the general assembly may appoint. And if 2/3 of the whole number shall meet and concur, they shall proceed to agree on such alterations and amendments as they may think proper, provided that after 2/3 shall have concurred to proceed to alterations and amendments, a majority shall determine on the particulars of such alterations and amendments. So, if we look at these 2 documents, right? If we look at these 2 documents, we see something very different. One is that alterations can only be made by the people. The very next one says what? It is representatives from members of the assembly. So they rewrite the Constitution and change the way any kind of amendments or changes are instituted. And they did this without the consent of the people. Remember, you know, the original Constitution said that any alterations to be made to the Constitution. So they are taking that to mean, say, well, any amendment, right? When I say any alterations, I mean any amendment. But that is not true. Any alterations mean any change. So by replacing a constitution especially the clause that allows the changes, is null and void. If the people did not suggest this, if the people did not vote for this, it is null and void. And when you look at the actual notes, because one thing with them people, you know, them are going to keep notes. Exactly. Every single constitution in Georgia after the first one is null and void. The whole of them. Up to this day, because the foundation was tainted. Right? Now, if you look at any court case where you bring things to the Supreme Court, what do? They go back to the original intent of the original Constitution. And if you ever to go back to this thing here and you see that no alteration shall be made without petitions from the majority of people by voting. You see, it says them have to sign it. Then it doesn't say you have to vote, you know. Every vote has to be signed by the majority. So they would have to go back and see if there was any signatures from the people of the state in them county there to see if that was actually valid to have changed the constitution, which it was not. Because when you look over the notes, no voting no happen. Then just rewrite the blasted something because they could not change the laws. People, want to know how significant that is? Want to know how significant that is? Imagine. Think about this, you know. Can you imagine every single individual who is in jail unlawfully? Every single contract that relied on the law is null and void. Everyone sitting in government does not have that position because it was not lawfully instituted. Every election that happened. People, want to know how far 1777 is? Do you realize how damaging those changes have been over the past 300 years? Going on to 300 years. Again, me not teach uno nothing we secret. You notice a Google we go on and we go pull up what is available to everybody. So me not teach nobody nothing secret. Me not take out nobody bath pan and I show no you water. This is public knowledge. This is publicly accessible. And on me, I say, what we actually read. Right? So, everything thus far that we have been subjected to is as a result of an illegitimate government. Hey, Kimar. Yes, you know. That's why I'm showing it on screen, you know. Can you Google search the same thing when we search for and get something different? Stop a foolishness, Bridget. So, it does not stop there. Let us take a look at something further. Because for those who think that this is a joke, I'm going to show you something. Let us scroll up just a little bit. This is still the original Constitution, right? For those of you who go to court and the court say guilty or not guilty, I'm going to show you something. All right? This says Authorities. How admitted. You see it also? Authorities. How admitted. All right. For those of you who the judge keep on telling you, you cannot say anything other than guilty or not guilty. There is no, you are presumed innocent, sir. Keep on moving forward. All right. Here is what the original Constitution says. No person shall be allowed to plead in the courts of law in this state. People, remember, you know, America and Jamaica pretty much the side by side. Only a few hours away by plane. So you see anything where did go on when revolution are going on in America? The British them did take notes. Okay? So here what go on. Because remember, you know, the law has to be public. So everybody has to see what go on. It says, no person shall be allowed to plead in the courts of law in the state, except those who are authorized to do so by the House of Assembly. And if any person so authorized shall be found guilty of malpractice before the House of Assembly, they shall have power to suspend them. So this is talking only about people in the General Assembly. What me tell you not enough time. We soon get to it, you know. We soon get to the meat and potatoes of this. This is not intended to exclude any person from the inherent privilege of every free man, the liberty to plead his own cause. What does that mean? To bring your cause into court and let the court decide whether or not you are entitled to a judgment. Right? Now, you notice it is very specific as to pleading. You can only be found guilty of malpractice. Meaning, you have to be an employee of the government or a public official. Because you are practicing or you are in the capacity of an office. Right? So, all right. Watch the style here. For those of you who have not come to class, for those of you who are not a signatory, you might not know this, but if you have been joining the lives, answer this question, including signatories. How do we become an agent of the government? How do we become subjects of the government? By what contractual act of parliament? I talked about this, probably 2 to 3 months ago. By what act of parliament boom. Ra got it correct. The Local Governance Act attempted, I am not even saying that it's legal, you know. The Local Governance Act, a matter of fact, let us pull it up. I'm going to use Google this time because I don't want to think say I'm me a Photoshop document. So let us pull it up. Let us pull it up so that you can see for yourself. Yes, sir. You know we come with receipts, right? All right. So Jamaica, look, a matter of fact, yeah, I Google with it. Yeah. We are at Google. Jamaica Local Governance Act. Think of 2015. 2016. So you see we have Social Development Commission of Jamaica and we have Ministry of Local Government and Communities. We have many places you can download it from, right? Let us go with the first one because it is a government website. Local Governance Act of 2016. Hey, Kimar, cut the foolishness. Show us if you are getting some other result in your Google and stop talking about me have magic Google. All right, so here we have the, you see the title, right? Let us bring up the name, right? What it say? This act, I can't see, right? This act may be cited as the Local Governance Act of 2016 and shall come into operation on the day blah, 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 right? So let us go down to section 5 or paragraph 5, right? All right. You see the people who come to class know, you know. The people who are signatories, them know. Section 5.2, what does it say? The inhabitants of each parish, other than the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew, are hereby declared to be a municipal corporation under this act. Wanna hear though? The inhabitants. Who is an inhabitant? Anybody will live somewhere, don't. The inhabitants of each parish in a Jamaica, other than, meaning excepting, the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew, are hereby declared to be a municipal corporation under this act. So you are converted into what? For those of you who are listening, type it in the comments. What have you been converted into by this act? You are declared to be a municipal corporation. Sole proprietorship. It doesn't matter which one you choose. It is now a fictitious entity. But more importantly, a municipal corporation is a government-created entity. Let me say that again for the people in the back. A municipal corporation cannot exist by virtue of private action. A municipal corporation can only be created by the government. Nobody else can create a municipal corporation. Exactly, Justin. That's why them call it the government name. So next time when you come to class, like Kimar says, make sure you say, you already know this section. The Local Governance Act of 2016, Section 5.2. Now, for those of you who may be wondering, so what happened to the people in Kingston and St. Andrew? Why them not included? As a matter of fact, they are included. Okay? Here, what it goes on to say. And each such municipal corporation shall be deemed for all intents and purposes to be successors of the respective parish council referred to in Section 3.2 of the Parish Council Act, repealed by Section 53 of this Act. And for the avoidance of doubt, the assets and liabilities of that parish council are hereby vested in the municipal corporation so succeeding. So everybody is a municipal corporation, and I'm not going to go no further than that right here now. We're going to talk about this part in another segment. See? The Municipality of Portmore, established under the Municipalities Act, repealed by Section 53, is hereby continued and deemed to be a city municipality under this Act, and is to be known as the Municipality of Portmore unless otherwise determined by the Minister. Blah, blah, blah. The municipal corporations referred to in subsection 1 and 2 shall bear the respective corporate names set out in the first schedule. Local authorities shall be categorized as municipal corporations constituted in accordance with section 7. Right? Now, as you go down further, wait, it's section 73, 53, right? Let's go down to section 53. Where are we? 57. So 53 supposed to be somewhere about here. So let's see what they're talking about. 51. '53. What does section 53 say? Subject to section 54, the Parish Councils Act, the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation Act, and the Municipalities Act, and the Parochial Elections Modification Act, in this act referred to as the repealed acts, are hereby repealed. Notwithstanding the repeal of the repealed acts, section 130 to 183, 185 to 188, and 190C and D of the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation Act shall remain in force until repealed by any other enactment. Notwithstanding the repeal of the acts, regulations made under the acts in force and immediately repealed acts as in force immediately before the repeal of those acts shall remain in full force and effect, blah, 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 blah. Right? So, the Kingston and St. Andrew Corporation Act, those in the Kingston and St. Andrew area, is gonna remain in force and effect, right? This is subject to section 54, which is under here, so what we just read. So, as you go down, you will see that those in the Kingston and St. Andrew area are also converted into a municipal corporation. But down here, so is where they have to repeal the act that was in force and effect prior to this act coming into fruition. Right? So everybody went upon the island, unless you have made a public declaration, you are considered a municipal corporation. Unless you have made public that you are not a corporation, you are a municipal corporation as declared in the Local Governance Act of 2016, Section 5(2). Remember, you never hear the term, ignorance of the law is no excuse? Whoever hear the term, ignorance of the law is no excuse? Can I do it twice? If you do it twice, it's not going to make a difference. Once is enough, right? But you can. Yes, you can. Have you ever heard the term, ignorance of the law is no excuse? Right, it is a maxim of law. That means that everybody is deemed to know the law. And that segues into the next part of what we're going to talk about. Due process. There are many people of the view that they have to tell the police that, say you have violated my rights. And there are many people who think that that is going to do something. There are many people who think that no, the court is going to somehow deem that to be some magic words or something that should hold more weight. It really does not. Because what? Again, the same maxim of law, the same saying of law, the same agreement of law. Them still are going to try away until we make them recognize the declaration in a court setting. Right. We're going to get to something interesting. Hey, get on a pen and on a paper. All right? We're gonna get a little bit deep here. Some people think we reached deep already, you know, but we're going to get a little bit deeper. All right? So get on a pen and on a paper. Get something on a write with. If you don't want a screen record, I don't know how long the live is going to be. You might run out of space. But fair warning, right? Or fair notice, not warning, notice. All right. So, when we have this maxim of law that proliferates in the court, it has no basis in law. Law is something that is static, something that is written down and it is not changed. Everybody it applies to, and it is the same law going forward. It is not changed, right? So maxims of law are actually court common law acronyms, court common law accepted principles, right? So the court will recognize these things, but they are not supposed to have a basis in law. They should not be used as a basis for determination of anything. But they influence the courts. They influence the decisions. They influence how the court determines to deliberate a matter, right? Now, remember, you know, everybody is deemed to know the law. Why? Because the law is publicly accessible and the law is publicly posted. It not posted on the light post them and the billboards them and them something there, but it is deemed to have been in the public space where you can access it, and once it is published in the Gazette, then it is deemed to be public notice. So once it is published, that means that it is effective. That means that the court is now to use that to determine any cases that come before it, claiming that there's a violation or a right that was abridged, abrogated, or infringed upon, right? So, when me tell you, say, don't argue with the police. When me tell you, say, do not argue with the police on the side of the road. Right? I hope you see things are come full circle, you know. I have said this more than a year ago. Don't argue with the police on the side of the road. If they think they're doing their job, left them alone. Make them continue to do whatever they're doing. The more you argue, the more dangerous it can get. All right? And we've seen this many times. As the police them normally try to say, what? Comply, right? Me not really say anything different than that. Yes, sometimes our rights are violated, but that is not where we get remedy. That is not where we show what the law is. That is not where we can get any kind of goodness out of the situation. All right? Let us proceed and why I say this. If you know at least a little bit about how the law works, it can go in your favor. Let me say that again. If you know a little bit about how the law works, it can go in your favor really quickly. You don't need to be shouting. You don't need to be telling the officer they're violating your rights. You don't have constitutional rights. I can bet anyone $1 million. Show me in the Constitution where it says you have constitutional rights. Where does it say it is now granting you these rights? Where does it say you now have these rights as a result of this Constitution? It does not exist. Exactly, Anushka. You have protections guaranteed by the Constitution. The protection of due process, the protection of the right to this, the protection of this, the protection of that. That is all the Constitution guarantees. Protection and recognition of certain rights. What do I mean by certain rights? What the Constitution lists is only a small portion of rights that you have. We have way more rights than what is actually written down, right? So in order for some of those rights to be recognized, you have to do other things in order to have those rights recognized, right? Exactly. If you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance. Not necessarily though. Not necessarily, right? Exactly, including but not limited to those rights that are written down in the Constitution. Because here's the other thing. The Constitution gives us enough context where we can include other rights. For example, religious rights. For example, tribal rights. For example, rights to our person. Unenumerated rights. But we're not going to get too far into that. Now, when we talk about ignorance of the law is no excuse, what does that mean? It means if someone violates the law and you can prove it, you don't need to tell them they are violating the law. It is the court that determines if someone violated the law or not. Exactly, NASA. It is the courts who determine whether or not there was a violation of law and whether or not a public official properly used the law. I talk about many things as it relates to traffic tickets. And let me also make the declaration again. I've made this declaration so many times. I am not anti-police. We on this platform, and you will see people commenting, people who have come to class, we are not anti-police. Okay? We are anti-lawlessness. Okay? Anyone who violates the law, we believe and we will hold them accountable. That is what we support. Okay? If the law is followed by everybody, we would have a great Jamaica. Right? But that is not a reality. So we are not going to be delusional into saying, well, everybody if follow the law, and if them not follow the law, blah, blah, blah. We're not business about that. If somebody violate the law, we should know what actions to take. That's why we say come to class. Because we can't teach everything on TikTok, right? So if you're not a signatory, you can become a signatory by going to voiceofjamaica.com and clicking on the signatory link in the menu. But anyways, back to ignorance of the law is no excuse and due process. Now, for many people you hear due process. For many people you hear ignorance of the law is no excuse. Again, when somebody violates the law, the trier of fact or the judge or the court, because really and truly, a judge does not exist. A judge is only there to execute the office of the court. Alright, so you see, you have to behave on yourself, you know. Alright. So, when we have a violator of the law, it is the one who determines whether or not the violation of law occurs. That is the interpreter of the law. That is the one who determines whether or not someone is a criminal, whether or not somebody is liable, whether or not someone violates the law, whether or not someone needs to go to jail or someone needs to pay. So when we hear the police say we are looking for criminals, we have to comprehend what that means. Criminals are those who have already been convicted of crimes by the court. Criminals cannot be everyday people. Let us say that again. Criminals are those who have already been tried in a court of law and have been found guilty. It is not those who are traversing the road going about your normal way and you have never even been to court. If you're a runaway or someone who escaped the clutches of the legal system, that is different. But if you are someone who them claim say didn't obey a stop sign, you're driving too fast or you're doing whatever, you cannot be a criminal. All right? So now, let us talk about the constitutional protections. The constitutional protections come first. Why does it come first? Let us bring up the Constitution. And we're going to talk about why the Constitution comes first. All right? Actually, the Charter is what we should bring up. The Charter. No, actually. So this is section, which part this? Section 2. Let us go to the Constitution. See? Even judges are push the Constitution to the side. Them no want to hear that. Anushka, we want to talk about that. So let us go to section 2. All right, let me scroll up because I want to make sure I see at the Constitution me I talk from. This is the Constitution Order in Council 1962, right? All right. So let us go down to section 2. Section 2 there. So we have, hold on. Which one this? Constitution, yeah. So I will go a while ago. Let us see something. Let us see something. I think this is section 2 of schedule 1. Yeah, because the first part was the orders. Let me see something. Right, so here we have the first schedule, right? So if we scroll down a little bit, you know what? Here we have it. Section, page 29. Okay, I'm about deeper scrolling, right? Let me zoom it in a little bit so we can read. All right. What does it say? Effect of this Constitution, right? Subject to the provisions of section 49 and 50 of this Constitution, if any other law is inconsistent with this Constitution shall prevail, and the other law shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. Right? Right, that is what's called the Supremacy Clause. It means that this Constitution is supreme at all times. No other act of parliament or no other law can take precedence over this law. So when the court says, well, the Road Traffic Act and the Constabulary Force Act and this act and that act, it cannot come first before a protected right. People, wanna get what this means? A constitutional protection, as we have in the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, which was incorporated in part in section 13 of the Constitution, or chapter 3, right? These fundamental rights and freedoms that are recognized cannot be secondary to any other act of parliament. These are supreme. If it is part of the Constitution, You can't tell people say Road Traffic Act and Road Traffic Regulation and Acts of Parliament and them other shit there. This has to be considered first. First, if someone says, Your Honor, I believe my constitutionally protected rights. Again, listen to my phraseology. My constitutionally protected rights. I never say constitutional rights. Or my rights recognized and protected by the Constitution appears to have been violated. Thereby, this must be determined first. And let me just say this. They are not supposed to tell you about, sir, you have to answer guilty or not guilty. We cannot hear you on anything else right now. That is garbage. All right. I know people are going to face this situation. The judge is going to say, sir, or ma'am, whatever objection you have, it has to be after we determine if you are going to challenge the ticket or you're going to plead guilty. So what do you plead? Guilty or not guilty? We don't want to waste time here, but you cannot bring up anything else other than guilty or not guilty. The first question that should or would pop into my brain is this a lawful court? Is this a lawful court? Because what does the Constitution say? Any person charged with a crime, right, must be tried by an independent and impartial court. If I am being forced, Wally, lawful, greetings. Shad says some plead guilty with explanation. Shads, that is a phrase that has been made up by the court. Nobody on the outside ever even know what that means until they went to court and someone told them they can say that. That is something that was taught to people. That is not something anyone in everyday life would be saying on a regular basis or even know what such a term would mean. And such a term does not mean anything. It's an oxymoron. If you plead guilty, you are guilty. If you plead not guilty, that means that you are challenging the ticket according to them. But that is also garbage. So if they can't hear we until one plea, can I then put a fee schedule forth? No, you cannot. At least not in that venue, not in that court, not in that setting. Right? So here is the thing. If we have a lawful court, the judge cannot be a prosecutor. Let me say that again. A judge cannot try a case. That means that you cannot be impartial. It is, remember, the court has three parties. It should have three parties. The claimant or the accuser, the defendant or the charged party, and the prosecution. The claimant, who is bringing the claim, or the prosecution. Sorry. The defendant, or the one defending the case, and the judge. Right? So the judge is supposed to be sitting there. The judge is not supposed to participate in the case. The judge is simply supposed to look at all the facts and the testimony and determine if the law applies to the situation and how the law applies to the situation. That's it. That is it. So when the judge or the clerk or the prosecutor or anybody in a court is telling someone you must plead guilty or not guilty, the simple question is, I am not aware of a law that forces me to enter a plea. Can you please direct me to the body of law and the specific section that states that I must plead as a defense? Where does it state that the only thing I can say at my first appearance of being accused, the only thing I can say is guilty or not guilty? Can you show me the law that says that? Big problem. No such law exists. If someone can find it, remember I say this all the time. Anushka, just hold your horses, man. Remember I say this all the time. I am here as a student as well. So if you find something or if you have some factual information that I can learn from, I am open arms. I am always here to learn. My research does not stop where I find things. All right? So if you feel that I am missing something, by all means, share that information with me, because as you can see, I have the receipts. All right? So remember, the Constitution, or the Jamaica Constitution Order in Council 1962, is supreme above every court rule, every act of parliament, every regulation, every internal policy, everything, every force order. A matter of fact, the Constitution also stands above every court order. Everything. Because why? Because it is the Constitution that creates the power that they are exercising. You cannot exceed your authority above the Constitution. You have to stay in that bucket. You cannot exercise a power that was not delegated to you as a matter of law. That goes to public official, right? Now, that being said, even though sometimes the judges will not allow you to speak, even though they will bawl you down and cow you down, even though the clerks of court will scream at you and tell you, sir, you waste time, miss, you waste time, guilty or not guilty, or we're going to set you down for the last somebody we talk to, or give you some time for you to think about it. You have to answer guilty or not guilty. We don't want to hear nothing else other than guilty or not guilty. We have other things to do. People are waiting for you, stop waste people time. We hear all of these things. I am not saying, again, context matters. So I have explained part of the story, right? So if you want to understand remedy, you have to listen to the complete story. There are people who think about things and people who hear conversations and they just shut down the conversations right away because what? They have experienced some of what is being talked about, right? So if you don't listen sometimes, you will miss the point. You will miss your opportunity. So even though it sounds like something where you already think you know, just take your time and listen, all right? So what about the Constabulary Act that was before the Constitution? It doesn't matter. The Constitution itself declares itself supreme. And it is the Constitution itself that states that all acts that were before the Constitution that were in force and effect continue in Section 4. Let us show everybody that before we continue. Right? So if we scroll down to Section 4. Right? This is why the constabulary force. Alright, so it is in a different section. Because part of this is the order. And the other part is alright. We will get to that a little bit later. Because you have different schedule and different section of the Constitution. But basically, it says that all laws in force and effect prior to the constitutional enactment, they continue forward, right? So again, it is the Constitution who is doing this. The Constitution that is doing this. So it is not the act on its own. Yes, it was before the Constitution, but it is the Constitution that brought it forward. It didn't end up there on its own. So it is still subject to the superior authority of the Constitution, right? Now, why not the people download the Constitution and have a copy on hand and study and know it? Well, everybody have the chance to do that. Contempt of court them threaten you with. That's fine. That's fine. Let them threaten you with contempt of court. Again, you have to learn these things. You have to... You see, for most people, if you try to do these things on your own, it's going to take a very long time. That's why we say what? Become a signatory and come to class. You will have access to learn better and do better. But let us go over these basic procedures, right? Now, remember how we started this. Do not argue with public officials. Do not argue with public officials, including the court. If someone is threatened with something called contempt of court, meaning the court will punish you for violating a law or violating a court rule. You say, Your Honor, if I am going to be charged with contempt of court, I would like to have a contempt hearing for that specific violation that you witnessed. Because the Constitution is going to be my foundation. It's that simple, right? Once them no plead, again, we're putting the cart in front of the horse. Just listen, right? Again, if the court is threatening you with contempt of court, or the court says, I am going to hold you in contempt, you say, Your Honor, I am entitled to a contempt hearing, and thereby, I would like to ensure that if I am charged of a violation of the court rules or a law, that I am given the opportunity to know the charge and to have my contempt hearing so that I can prepare for such a hearing. Okay? Anytime you are accused, your due process protections kicking. You don't have due process rights. You have the protection of the right to due process. Okay? So anytime someone is taking action against you in court, you can invoke due process. Your Honor, I would like to invoke my right to due process. All 12 clauses. All 12 due process clauses. In case you don't know. Our section 16(6). Let us see. Protection of property. Protection of right to due process. Section 16, right? Let me show you real quick. For those of you who don't know what due process is, right? You hear the term, but you don't know what it is. Let me see if I can zoom it in a little bit more. All right. You see it say? Protection of right to due process. And it is labeled section 16, as you can see on the screen, right? So section 16 have 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph, 3 paragraph, all the way down to what? Paragraph 12. All the way to paragraph 12. Right? Now, if you don't go and read what due process means and what it entails, what are all these paragraphs? How can you make a defense? It is impossible. Because these 12 paragraphs are giving you so much power. And most of you don't use not even one. Because you don't even know that it exists. Let me give you an example. It says, whenever any person is charged with a criminal offense, including contempt of court. Okay? Contempt of court is a criminal punishment. Alright? Unless the court says they are going to just impose a fine. So it says, whenever any person is charged with a criminal offense, he shall, unless the charge is withdrawn, be afforded a fair hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial court established by law. Guess what? If a judge threatens you with contempt, you can demand that a different independent court tries the matter. It says it right here. independent and impartial court established by law. So, you don't know that anytime someone tries to charge you, you can demand that an independent court tries the matter. If you don't invoke this right, if you don't invoke this protection, it does not exist. So first you have to know that it's there. You have to know you have this power. Paragraph 2. In the determination of a person's civil rights and obligation. When I told many of you, you need to have your rights declaration documents. You need to declare what rights you have. Because what? The courts are already assuming that you are what? You are a municipal corporation without any rights. The courts are assuming that this law takes precedence over everything. So sometime when you think say them not hear you, it is not because them not hear you with them ears. It's because them not hear you with no other declaration rebutting the fact that you are a municipal corporation. Anyways, you see it say, in the determination of a person's civil rights and obligations. So they first have to determine, do you have any rights? Do you have any obligations? Rephrase what I say, which part? I know I'm going through this a little bit fast, but we don't have a time for you to go through all of these independently. I am just showing you the surface. The municipal thing. Come like you come in late. You come in late to online class, man. This is the Local Governance Act of 2016. Let us go up. See what it say? This act may be cited as the Local Governance Act of 2016 and shall come into operation on the appointed day. Right? If we go down to section 5, paragraph 2, you see? We have section 5, paragraph 2. It says the inhabitants of each parish, and inhabitants are what? Inhabitants are people living in the parish, don't. The inhabitants of each parish other than the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew are hereby declared to be a municipal corporation under this act. Right? So, you are being considered to be a corporation, a municipal corporation, a government entity, a government fiction, a government property. You never just depend on the Constitution Act. There is no such thing as the Constitution Act. You talk about the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms, this one. Kingston and St. Andrew is defined later on. So everybody, Kingston and St. Andrew is included. It's just in this section, it is talking about all the other parishes except Kingston and St. Andrew, because Kingston and St. Andrew have their own act. Right? All right. So, if we go back to the charter, paragraph 2, the judge is first determining if you have any civil rights or any obligations. Exactly, Anushka. Your brain traveling, man. Your brain reach. So, if the court is going to determine if you have any civil rights or obligations, why must they determine that? It is because everyone is not equal. Everyone does not have the same rights. Everyone does not have the same obligations. If you are a municipal corporation, none of this applies to you. None of it. None of it. Okay? Anyways, if they determine you have any rights or obligations or of any legal proceedings which may result in a decision adverse to his interests, he shall be entitled to a fair hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial court or authority established by law. You notice it say established by law. Independent and impartial court or authority established by law. Right? So in both cases where they are determining if you have a right or obligation or if you are charged, you have to get a fair hearing within a reasonable time by an independent and impartial court. Right? Paragraph 3. All proceedings of every court and proceedings related to the determinations of the existence or the extent of a person's civil rights. You see, then come again. You see, then come again one more time. What happens if you have your paperwork and they reject it? You have to come to class. There is no such thing as rejection. That does not exist. We can't go into that right now. But there is no such thing as rejection if you do it properly. Okay? It says in all proceedings of every court and proceedings related to the determination of the existence or the extent of a person's civil rights or obligation. Before any court or other authority, including the announcement of the decision of the court or authority, shall be held in public. How many times the court tell us, say, you can't come in because you don't have no case. You can't follow nobody come in a court. You have to have a case. You have to have a matter to deal with today. Or you're going to the clerk. Or some other nonsense. If that is the case, then that means that was a constitutional violation. If the court has to be public, how does a parish court tell us we cannot attend the proceedings of any court or any matter if we are not a party or if we don't come with an attorney? Section 4. Nothing in subsection 3 shall prevent any court or any authority, such as is mentioned in that subsection, from excluding from the proceedings persons other than the parties thereto and their legal representatives. A. In interlocutory proceedings, meaning if it is a proceeding prior to the final trial, right, they can exclude people from the proceedings. It still has to be public. In appeal proceedings under any law related to income tax, to such extent as the court or other authority may consider necessary or expedient in the circumstances where publicity would prejudice the interest of justice. You notice it never say interest of the people. Interest of justice. Or the court may decide to do so, or as the case may be, the authority may be empowered or required by law to do so in the interest of the defense, public safety, public order, public morality, the welfare of persons under the age of 18 years old, or the protection of private lives of persons concerned in the proceedings. So the question is, under what provision of the Constitution or under what law is the court limiting people from coming inside, from taking part, from seeing what is happening in the court? Every person charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed innocent until he is proved guilty or has pled guilty. Let me read that again. For those of you who stand up in front of the judge and them say, Miss or Sir, you have to plead guilty or not guilty before we can talk about anything else. Here we have on section 16.5 of the Charter of Fundamental Rights and Freedoms infused in the Constitution. It says, Every person charged with a criminal offense, and by the way, people, in case you didn't know, a ticket is a criminal offense, a criminal charge. Again, a ticket is a criminal charge. That's why you can go to jail if you don't pay the ticket. This is why a warrant can be issued, a bench warrant can be issued to bring you to court. Okay? Every person charged with a criminal offense shall be presumed innocent. What does presumed innocent mean? Presumed innocent means that they can't ask you nothing. You're not supposed to defend your innocence. You're not supposed to try prove your innocence. It's just like we presume that the sun is going to come out tomorrow. Exactly. That's why those matters are heard in a criminal court. If you are presuming something is true, you don't prove it. You don't go out there and try dig up something to see if it is true. Right? It is just backwards. When you go to court, if the judge is going to force you to answer one of two things that he presents, or the clerk is going to force you to answer one of the two things that she presents, that is what is called coercion. Coercion. You are forced to do something that you would not normally do. And when you are forced to do something, it is typically to your detriment. Now look at it. If you don't answer or you tell them, I am pleading my innocence, right? And they will say, well, if you don't answer, we're going to enter a plea of not guilty for you. Where in the Constitution or anywhere else does it give you or state any answer that says not guilty? Where does it state something that says not guilty in the Constitution or the Constabulary Force Act or any other act of Parliament? Where have we seen in law the term not guilty? Only in a court. Only in a court. So, that being said, if I am being challenged or if I am being threatened to answer guilty or not guilty, and I feel like I want to invoke my right of due process, I would say, Your Honor, with all due respect, can you please cite the law that requires me to plead guilty or not guilty? Your Honor, can you please cite the law, the specific law that states that I must plead guilty or not guilty? Listen, the judge can kick and scream all he wants. If it is in fact a court of law, you have to state the law that you are using. It is that simple. I don't need to use legalese. All right, let's look at the situation. Let's say the judge say, sir, I am not here to provide legal advice. Okay? If you have some problem with the law, you bring it up with a higher court, or we can give you somebody to represent you because you don't seem to know what's going on. I would say, Your Honor, it appears that you are setting the law in motion for a purpose for which it was not intended. Because if someone is asking you what law you're using today and you cannot provide the law, that means that that law does not exist. As far as you and this court is concerned, If the law exists, it should be something very simple. Right? I mean, all right, if somebody say, why your thief me banana? Right? Exactly. If somebody say, why your thief me banana? My first question is, how you know say me thief banana? Where is the evidence? What you have to say or to show that me thief a banana? Somebody down the road tell me say they see you run from over my place. That is not evidence, sir. Bring the person who said them see me. Come make we talk. Because if I be the case, we are going to go to court. And him and you have to go prove that this is not malicious prosecution. So call the police. Remember, people, testimony alone is not evidence. Witness statements are not evidence. They are allegations. Let me say that again. Evidence is evidence. Accusations are not evidence. Witness statements are not evidence. Affidavits are not evidence. The only time they become evidence is if someone admits to them. That's why we go to discovery. You don't even need to reach discovery. Listen, all of them thing here, like I say, those are just, how much we got through? 3, right? We got through 3 paragraphs. Or 4. We got through 4 paragraphs. And you already see how powerful that is. That's why I say, people, I'm not tell you to read just because more you go out there and try to figure out whatever. It is in plain language. Just due process alone can help you in court. When you are being forced to answer to certain things, when them go down a path where no law no exists, you just ask simple questions. Ask simple questions. Is this a court of law? All right, Allison, I'm going to bring you up. I see a couple of people in the box. We're going to bring you up one by one. Welcome, Allison.
Yeah, hi, I'm all good, thank you. Thank you for that, lawful. Do you know what I don't understand? As you can tell from my accent, I'm originally from the UK, but I reside in Jamaica. Now, if you go to court and the police don't turn up to give their evidence, I've heard people attending court 2 and 3 times. Why, if the police don't attend to give their evidence, why is it not thrown out of court?
Well, number one, do you even know what court you're in?
I'm talking, yeah, the stories that I've heard are from people that have got traffic offences. It's traffic offences. It's not murder or anything like that. It's traffic offences. Yet the police officer won't attend the court to give the evidence.
Yeah.
And then I've heard, why is it not thrown out? Why don't they throw it out if they can't be bothered to attend?
Because the law works by action. If you are simply just attending court and you're just watching everything go along, you're just agreeing to everything, then remember, you know, the police and the court work for the government, right?
So if I've been done for speeding, and let's say they had a speed camera, and I go to court, but the police officer doesn't come to the court to give that reading off the speed camera, then it gets adjourned and I have to come back another time and the officer doesn't come. Is that allowed to keep on carrying on then?
If you don't know what to say, then yes.
I'm going to say, because aren't the police officers obligated to attend that court
No,
hearing? No.
no, no.
Lord have mercy, that don't sound right, does it?
Because remember, after a certain period of time, sometimes it can be 3 times, sometimes it can be
Yeah,
7 times.
I've heard 3.
I have seen people who go to court 7 times with receipts each time to show when they
Yeah,
attended. Right? Now, if you don't say anything, the court can do whatever they want because you're not asserting any right. You're not telling the court, I object to this. I don't want to come back. There is no prosecution. There is no witness. You're not saying anything.
yeah.
So they are going to continue to adjourn, and you're going to come back and come back and come back.
Okay, so if you said something, then the chances are they would throw it out of court.
Much quicker.
Yeah, because I couldn't get my head around it, because in the UK, that wouldn't work. Maybe the first
Right.
time, but if the second time the police officer didn't turn up, it would be the judge turn around and say, boom, stamp, go.
Right.
Because the police haven't been to give their evidence.
Well, we can't go into all of the technicalities there, but anywhere that you have a larger population of people, you're going to have better court systems. Not to say they are not, sneaky the same, but you're going to have quicker outcomes of cases because, there is so many people to get to. They don't want to stop at the basic little foolishness that people are going through in Jamaica. Because Jamaica is so small, so they want to make it appear to be busy. So that's why that happens.
Yeah. So, in Jamaica, if you get a ticket for speeding and you knew you were speeding, you have to go to court to pay that ticket. Why can't you go online and pay that ticket?
You could go online and pay.
You can go online and pay for it.
Yep.
Yeah, because that was something else I heard, that people that have got speeding tickets, yes, I was speeding, I'm going to the courts to pay. Well, why aren't you paying online?
Right. Yeah, because on the ticket itself, it gives you the website address you can go and pay, or you can go Google search it, and it comes up.
Yeah. Okay, that makes things at that level a bit clearer.
Right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Lawful.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. Thank you for coming up.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see who else is in the box. All right, I'm going to bring up Dean next. Dean, you're up. Lawful Dean, welcome. Dean? All right, Dean is not ready. I'm going to bring up Chattels. All right, Chattels not ready yet. User 1001. I'm going to bring you up if you're still there. All right, look like them not have no patience. So we get everybody that was in the box. So, like we said before, due process is a big, long thing. God, lawful, welcome. Curious, lawful, respect, wagwan. So, if you just learn due process, you don't even realize how powerful that is. But let us talk about something more interesting. What happens when your rights are violated in court? Who can we hold accountable? Remember, I said this, and you hear it all the time. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Right? And that goes for everyone. It goes for corporations, it goes for public officials, it goes for people. You can't go in a court and say you never know it was a law. That is not acceptable, especially if it is classified as a crime. And a violation of a right is typically a crime. Okay? So when our rights are violated, I said this before, and we're coming full circle. Anybody can be named a defendant, including the court. Did you know that? Did you know that you can sue a parish court? Remember, the judge is inside of the court. The judge cannot act on his or her own. The court is the body. The court is the corporation. Right? The court is a person too. Yes. The court is not the state. Blasmin. All right. You see, for those who don't believe me, let me ask you a question. When someone is suing the state, right? Who is named a defendant? When someone is suing the crown, who is named a defendant? Who must be named a defendant in order for the court to recognize it? Yo. Oh gosh. Yo, you see, Jamaicans are take things serious too more while, you know. I'm not gonna call nobody names still. Anyways, the Attorney General is named whenever we sue someone, right? Yes, the defendant, but any person can be named a defendant, including a court. A court is not the government. So if you're going to sue the court, you can name the court and you also name the AG. You don't just name the AG. For the purposes of lawsuits, the court is a person. You notice on the top of the documents what it says, in the parish court of. Right? So it is not acting, it is not something that is out of reach. Anything that is named can become a party. Anything that is named that by extension has authority in law can be sued. For the purposes of a lawsuit, the court is a person. I am not telling anybody to do this. Okay? I am just giving you some common legal knowledge. Okay? Can you demand the judge's bond? Seeing all agents have insurance. Anushka, you're talking about the states. In Jamaica, there is no such thing. Why isn't there such a thing in Jamaica? Because the government has assumed all insurance policies for its agents as what's called self-insured. That is why whenever you're suing the state, the AG is the one that is protecting the state or is in defense for the state. You know, because they are self-insured, they will pay directly from our tax money, basically. Right. You would address the court, not the judge. The judge is an agent, just like how the constabulary force can be sued. However, most people are going to assume that they would sue the commissioner or they would sue the officer, and they would also name the AG and so forth. In common practice, that is what an attorney would do. But like I told you before, as an individual, you have way more power than what an attorney is expected to do. We cannot say the court is a state, because the court is a creature of law. A state is not a creature of law. A state is not a creature of sub-law, let's put it that way. Right? What was the other question up here? So, address the issue at the court. There's another one that I missed. What is your opinion on the current traffic ticket day they are keeping? Curious, a long time you not come to class, though. What do I think about the traffic ticket day? I mean, it is what it is. For those who choose not to learn, for those who choose not to come to class, for those who choose to just look at the news, then, well, traffic day is traffic day. Almost every single time we get a chance to talk about traffic matters, I give out so many different options that one can choose as a road. We talk about, you know, expired tickets, how you can go about getting remedy there. We talk about, you know, your declarations. We talk about many different avenues. But we can't talk about the same thing every single live. We have to move forward, right? So today we have talked about due process. We talk about constitutional hijacking, right? We talk about the constitutional protections that are not being used by most people. We talk about, you know, what the judges will often say to you, what can be said, what can be asserted, how you can invoke certain rights, you know, how you can invoke certain protections, etc., etc. So the traffic days is just a public distraction to me. I don't know about anybody else, but it is neither here nor there. Now, again, if we keep on paying the tickets and we don't learn how to fight these matters in court, then what can we say about that situation? It just becomes a matter of public spectacle, right? The comments are getting filtered out. Let me see. All right, hold on. Can we? Where is this filtration thing? Community flag comments. All right, so we get rid of that. The filtered comments are just messing with the chat. So the government can spend the money because we are not objecting to it. We are using our voice and they are using paper. How much time we talk about this? If you don't learn how to put things on paper, if you don't learn how to use public notices, if you don't learn how to put things in writing, your voice alone does not work. Let's say that again. Your voice alone does not work in law. You have to have documentation. You have to go through paper processes, whether it be electronic paper, physical paper, etc. You have to go through a paper process for it to work or for it to be effective. Okay? Why do you think any act of parliament must be written down and signed before it becomes law? It's paper. So if them use paper and you just use your head and attack, you're always going to lose because you don't know how the game is played. Right? And again, the government can spend the money because technically they are not being held accountable, and they cannot be held accountable. Right, and you need papers for your records. Public notices, what's that, LB? Public notices are things that are published in the public. For example, your TikTok page is a place where you can put public notices. Right? You can post something and it is considered public. So you can use your TikTok platform as a public notice board. Or you can post something in the paper. You run something in the paper for 2 consecutive terms, which is, I think, 2 weeks at a time, or for 30 days, and it becomes public notice. So that's what I mean by public notice. You can also post on voiceofjamaica.com and it will be considered public notice. But in order to post on voiceofjamaica.com, you have to get to level 2. You have to become a signatory. You have to get through some of the courses and get to level 2 to have the ability to post public notices. So for those of you who are not signatories, right? We're not going to know what we're talking about. It's just going to fly over your head for now. But all of that are protections that you can have. Still can't do that all now. You still can't do it. You can't sign up to be a signatory. How does one get to level 3? Level 2. People, becoming a signatory is rather simple. Let us go over that. A matter of fact, before we go over signatory, right? You see, before I started constitutional drafting, the plan was all of those people who wanted to truly learn how to be effective in society and have the law on their side, we would have classes and we would teach how we go about doing things legally and lawfully, right? However, people love TikTok. I cannot teach what I want to teach on TikTok. And those who come to class can tell you, what we talk about here is nothing compared to class. How can I use this in a lawsuit I'm creating? Actually, no, JA. All your questions are answered in class. You cannot just use documentation just because you have access to it. You have to learn what it is and why it would be effective. You have to be active in the Telegram group in order to learn how and why you use certain documentation. It's not going through. I did 3 times and submitted it, yet I still haven't received any email. Blasmin, I am not sure what the issue is with your case, but if you are having an issue, you can message me on TikTok and we can walk through it and get you set up. But there is absolutely no way that you can be signing up and you're not receiving anything. You're probably not checking your spam, or you don't know what to look for when the emails are coming through. All right. Actually, no, JA. Yeah, man, you can message me and we can chat. The Telegram link is only for signatories. All right, let me talk about a little bit of the benefits. Like I was saying, before we started, right, and iCloud, and the message is there. You can't use an iCloud account or iCloud email address. It will be rejected. iCloud is very strict on any inbound emails to any of those addresses. So before we started constitutional drafting, right, the idea was people would be interested in learning the law, learning how to be effective at law, learning how they can get out of many of these cobwebs that we find ourselves in, right? Especially many people who are going about their business and you end up in some scuffle with the police, or you end up in court, or whatever the case may be. So many people signed up, but people are lazy, or them claim to them busy. Now think about this. If you are getting the knowledge on how you can navigate legally in society, whether it be court, whether it be an agency, whether it be traveling, whatever it is, you are getting that kind of knowledge, specific intentional knowledge, not to go read 10 books, not to go read all the acts of parliament, very specific focused information without cost, right? Free, right? You are getting that kind of knowledge and you don't come to class. And then you come back online and you start complaining. You know, so me just get one ticket. LB, what you think me supposed to do with this? Hey, listen to that situation here. You see how it don't really makes sense? Because if you are learning how to fish, why you keep asking somebody for a fish? It don't make no sense, right? So, and as I said before, I don't do anybody paperwork. I am not going to coach you or give you independent, secluded processes to do. I don't do that. Generally speaking, we have a discussion, and if you learn, you learn. If you don't, you watch the replays and you watch it until you learn. We teach you how to learn faster, how to ingest information very quickly, right? All of them something there, right? See, Kim there? Anytime we have class, it no matter where you are though, people will just have them headphones in and listen. When we talk about private class, not this TikTok. So that was the idea. We do class, we learn, we chat about it on Telegram, you know, we come up with ideas, we come up with questions, we come up with, you know, if somebody don't understand something, another member can help you out, right? Or I can chime in sometimes if there is a scuffle where people, you know, now get along, you know, we make things cordial. But then, again, people get lazy. You can't find everything else to do, but you can't come to class, right? No. Today is my first time. I miss all the classes. And now I am back. So no, right? Quark says if you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance. Exactly. So you see those of you, let me give you one of the benefits. You see those of you who are running away from tickets. You see those of you who are saying, boy, yo, me can't stand to get one next ticket right now, you know. You would literally be happy to actually get a ticket if you have the knowledge that the signatories have. Because you wouldn't be afraid of tickets. You would see why I tell you don't argue with the police on the side of the road. But if you don't want to come to class, I fear problem that. You can't come ask me about a video you took on your dash cam or whatever. You can't ask me about that because me not gonna give you no advice. I don't give legal advice. I don't give legal advice. I don't do consultations. I don't want any money. I don't need it. Okay? So, what I teach is free. What is in class is free. The discussions is free. The access to the website is free. The access to other people who are learning and doing is free. So, it's up to you. It's literally the only thing you pay is your time. That is it. All right. So, curious, how about filing documents in the Supreme Court? That is covered as well. It is not an issue. Right? All right. So, let us take a look at how do we become a signatory. Right? Let us take a look at that. So, we've been through this many times. You go to the website voiceofjamaica.com. See it right there, so? All right. That is step 1. When you get to the website, this is what you must see. If you don't see this, you're in the wrong place. voiceofjamaica.com. When you get to the website, there is a menu button that says signatories. If you're there on a phone, you will see 3 lines up here, so on the top left. You click on the 3 line and you will get the menu. If you're there on a computer, you scroll down and you see the menu right here, so. Right? You see it says signatories right here, so. You click on signatories. Right? Now, this is the form that you fill out. Okay? It's your first name, last initial. You don't need to fill out your full name. Your first name, your last initial. The last 4 of your TRN. Right? You put in your email and it's spell it out right here, so. iCloud not supported. So if you have an iCloud email address, go up on Gmail, go get one, or go up on Yahoo, go get one. Right? You put your email here, so. Then you answer whatever question show up. Every time you go on the page, it's a different question. Let me refresh and show you. Refreshing the page. It's a capital sentence. When you go back there. Alright, look like. Alright, so you just answer the question. Whatever question show up for you. Right? Then you have to check the box. And then you have to submit a blocked out. You see it have instruction. It say, due to impersonators, all signatories must pre-verify with blocked or cropped picture showing the last 3 digits of TRN number, right? And here you have examples of blocking out your ID and showing the section that have the last 3 digits of your TRN, right? Once you do that, you hit submit, right? See the browse button here, so, or choose file. You choose the file after you block it out and you submit it. Once you submit it, you wait 24 hours or less and you will get an email. And the email will have instructions on how you become a signatory. Now, after you become a signatory, your signature goes here. See, it's a rights activation public notice. This public notice declaration is a living document. Okay? When you scroll down, let me show you something. When you scroll down, we soon get to some of them articles that we see at the top. You will see. You see? These are the people who have signed up before. Everybody who signed, you see them signature? Alright. So what does all of this mean? This means that they are now a signatory to this document here, which is a public notice that was posted in the Gleaner. Right? You see? This was an article in the Gleaner. For what? voiceofjamaica.com. Right? This is another article. Wait there. See it over here, so. Another public notice again. voiceofjamaica.com. Public notice. Right? And as you can see, even the Ministry of Justice, they post public declarations in the paper as well. Right? So this is common practice. when you want to make something public. So the website voiceofjamaica.com is now what is called a public publishing platform. It is considered, anything posted on here is considered public notice. So when we say you will not have access to posts on this until you reach level 2, once you reach level 2, if you go to the home page, right? Let me show you what we mean. You will have access to post like you see some people posting their notices on these different pages, right? Legal notices, titles, etc., etc., etc. Right? So whatever is posted here is considered public notice. All right? Now, what do we mean by class? In the same menu, if you click on class, I am not logged in right now, right? So if you click on class, you can see all the classes that have transpired in the past. You can go back and watch them, right? Now, if you try to get into any of the classes, right, this one says read more, right? If you scroll down, you will see that you can't access anything, right? If you try to start now, let's see what happens. Redirecting. Please log in to enroll in the course. So you need an account, and as you can see, the price for the course is how much? $0.00. Okay, so you have to have a signatory account in order to sign in. And once you sign in, then you will have access to all classes. Okay, so that is where class is. Now, when we have live classes, you would be notified. You'll be notified via Telegram, and you have the option of joining live classes when we have live classes. Okay. Now let me show you something. Here under downloads, we have templates, documents, files. All of these are restricted. You need to be a signatory to access these 3. If you're not a signatory, you can go to free docs. When you go to free docs, you have access to all of these documents. You have Acts of Parliament, you have templates, you have notices, right? Many different documents that you can use on your own. For example, VAX religious exemption template, Declaration of Religion template, genetic sovereignty public notice, religious travel public notice, declaration and testimony and due process public notice, unalienable rights declaration public notice, revocation of presumed consent. These are free. You don't have to log in. You can click on any one of them and download them right now without logging in, without any account, without becoming a signatory. So these are public for everyone. They are generic documents, so you have to craft them to your own needs. You have to fill them out properly. You have to, if you so choose to use them. Okay? And as you will probably see in the comments, this is nothing compared to what we have in the actual sections like templates, documents, and files. This is literally, as they will say, a couple grain of salt. Right? This is just for people who are looking for, oh, I just want to see, what exactly, they can get for free. Which again, everything is free. It's just, if you're putting a little more effort, you will have access to actual information. All right? Here we have a special customs declaration. Again, if you don't come to class, most of you probably don't even know what to do with these documents. So it doesn't even make sense. Because you need context. You need knowledge before you take action. Right? So, that is what we mean by come to class. That is how you become a signatory. That is how you navigate the website, etc., etc., etc. Okay? If you are having problems Like, you fill out the form and you not get the websites. Una love come watch me on Telegram, so send me a message. Una love watch a TikTok live, them. Una love hear me talk about history and law and traffic tickets and court and constitution and all these different things. Send me a message. Why you sit down and wait until the last minute when you get in a problem, then you try hurry up and I try see what you can do, what you can say, how you can do this, how you can do that. You cannot run and learn. It is not good. It is better to have the knowledge so that when the time comes, you can use it. It's not even an if, At this point, it is almost guaranteed that you will get a ticket. You don't have to really do nothing. Sometimes they just pull you over for whatever reason and give you a ticket. So, it's better if you learn something than go in blind. Just follow the sheep. I go through court, them tell you say, you're guilty of this, then I believe your story, or whatever, and you just go through the whole motion of it, you don't gain nothing. Right? You need context in order to get through some of these things. Right? May I drive and learn. Well, unless you're a taxi, you're traveling and learn. Right? So, again, I am not trying to convince you of what knowledge you can gain if you come to class. It's just up to you, right? It's up to you if you think. If you think these lives are anything, then most likely you will find class way more interesting than what you see here, right? Just enjoy your freedom of movement and you shall be ticketed. Exactly. So, we deviated a little bit from constitutional drafting tonight because, like I said, it is, from this point on, I think we have gathered enough, and right now it's going to be refinement mode. So, big up to the agents that come in here to copy. Hey, and we make everything public. Right? We make everything public. So if the agents want to take notes and they want to go make suggestions in Parliament or wherever else, be our guest. Right? The people have been asking for solutions for years on top of years and nothing is being done, and it would appear that now that we're taking action, that the government and the agents are taking notes and they don't want people to take things into their own hands. It's just like when you have the pothole crisis and people start just take up some bag of sand and cement and just start cement the road. Them no want nobody to do that, but them still not fix the road. So, sometimes we have to take things into our own hands for our own interests, right? Them not in the back of the class no more, them up front with pen and paper. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the motive is, but it has been 60 odd years and we haven't seen much change other than the people who enter government office, right? We have not seen a whole lot of change, and the changes that were supposed to come even 10, 15, 20 years ago, we're just seeing them. We're just seeing some of the changes that were supposed to take place 10, 15, 20 years ago. And people are thinking, oh, this is so great. Finally we have this. And, this is so awesome. And, so that are old news that they done plan and put on long time. It is just now being implemented. Right? So, like we said, we're not here to fight anyone. Right? We are not here to fight anyone. We are not here to become combative. We are not here to try to get anyone out. How it's taking so long? Because it is profitable to suppress things. Right? If if the money put on a long time and they are still taxing, they are still, you know, charging fees, they are still doing all these things today, and the money put on a long time, that means that the money today can be used for other things or can be used in different ways. Because what was supposed to be has already been paid for. Right? So, that is a possibility. I am not saying that that is what's happening, but it is a good possibility that all of these things that were paid for already, it is the reason why they are delayed, so that when the time comes, it is no longer a matter of putting them in play, because it was literally already paid for. So, anyways, that is it for tonight. We're gonna close it off here. I hope you had a fulfilling and enjoyable life, and we will continue again Wednesday, and we will cover some more ground. All right, so for those of you who want to become a signatory, hey, you have the option. See, big up on yourself. Lawful always.